Chris Olson, President of Alhambra Preservation Group.
And I'm Oscar Morrow, Vice President and Founder. We appreciate your interest in learning the views of the two candidates running in 2012 for Alhambra's 4th District City Council race on issues related to historic preservation in our city.
We've invited the candidates to respond to 5 questions posed by our members. The candidates have been given 5 minutes to respond to each question and 1 minute to introduce themselves. We thank them both for their willingness to participate in this project designed to inform the electorate of their positions on these issues vital to our community's quality of life. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Steve Placido. I'm a council member for the City of Alhambra. I grew up in town. I went to Garfield Elementary School and Alhambra High School, and I have a dental practice in town for the past 25 years. I'm married to my lovely wife Loretta, and I have 2 beautiful daughters that are in 2nd grade and 5th grade. And I'm very blessed to have served both in the community, on the council, as well as in community events such as I'm president of the Alhambra Day Nursery, I'm in the Chamber of Commerce, I'm in our local Rotary Club that does wonderful things in town, and I've been very blessed to be part of the community.
Is there a place in Alhambra that you think should be named a local historic landmark or a landmark district?
Well, in 1985, the city took a survey. It was the Historic and Cultural Resource Survey, and it really identified many of the homes and places that had some historic significance. I think that is a good starting point for any landmark or important place in town. And it was really basically broken up into 3 groups. One group was who owned it. If someone significant owned the building, then that building gained significance. It was also if it was used for something important, like a produce warehouse or a distribution center or some major market. And then the 3rd group was if it had architectural significance. And I think the survey identifies those things. I hope that 100 years from now they don't think that my house is anything special because I live there. So having the home significant isn't quite as important as who lived there. And I think the community is more important than and the people that surround that group of architecture of significant landmarks is more important than the actual building itself. So in landmarks, I think the community is important. I think the neighborhood is important, and the city has worked quite hard to preserve those type of landmarks, so that when you grew up in the 60s, I think some of those things are retained in today's neighborhoods. Where you go to school, how you get to school, and how we treat our families is far more important than who lived in that house 100 years ago.
Are you aware of the Mills Act enacted in 1972 to permit California cities to establish contracts with owners of designated historic properties to rehabilitate, restore, and maintain their buildings in exchange for a reduction in property taxes? And do you see a value in securing these Mills Act benefits for Alhambra property owners?
Well, I am familiar with it, although I'm not profoundly familiar with the Mills Act. I think back in 1972 they tried to help homeowners preserve their homes, although I don't think it goes far enough. They've taken the property taxes that you pay, and the city portion is the city gets about 40 to 60% of the property tax. And for this discussion, let's say it's about half. And in today's market, you may pay about $6,000 a year in property tax. that means that you have a $3,000 reduction in your property tax. And $3,000 just doesn't do enough. I don't think it does enough. If you're going to preserve your house, $3,000 is it's a 10-year contract, and so you'll get $30,000 over a 10-year period. You know, when we moved into the house that needed a new roof, that was $15 grand. That would have taken 5 years to accumulate that much money, and that doesn't account for refinishing the floors, or even my water heater went out last month. It cost me $2,000. So, if it was meant to be a preservation act, I don't think it goes far enough. If it was that important to the state should have rebated its portion, and the county should have rebated its portion. So you didn't pay any property tax at all. That would have been even a bigger, significant, or more significant piece of legislation. When you preserve your house, it's a work of love. And I don't know if $3,000 is going to make that big of a difference. So those people who do take good care of their home, I just don't see it being the motive for you to work that hard and put all your income into your house. And we have some wonderful homes in town. People take wonderful care of their houses, and the Preservation Group has worked hard to identify those through the home tours and through the Heritage Awards. And I think it's a great thing to do. The city, in that spirit, has identified neighborhoods that allow people to take pride in their community, whether it's the Emery Park neighborhood, or the Midwick track, or the Bean track, or the airport track. People will go around and say, oh yeah, I'm from Emery Park, or I'm from Midwick. And they take pride in that. We also landscape the medians on Fremont and Valley and Mission to make not only it look nice, but make traffic flow improve and safety improve safety. We've put potted plants on the overpasses for the railroads, and the underpasses for the freeways. There's the big A and flowers. Those things just bring out community pride. And if people understand that the city takes great pride in the community, then hopefully the residents take pride in their community, in their homes, and keep it up.
If elected, would you support the adoption of a historic preservation ordinance that would designate buildings on the basis of architectural and historic significance for a special review by a council-appointed board before the buildings could be demolished?
Well, like I said earlier, I think it's important to preserve the neighborhoods and the communities. Whether a building is there or not may not be as significant as the community itself. We need to, I think we need to emphasize the importance of preserving the family. And to that end, we have enacted some residential building guidelines for not only the residents and the property owners, but also the architects that are hired and the contractors that work for improving the property. It also gives the planning commissioners the guidance to not only visually identify the homes in each area, but it gives both sides, both resident and commissioners, a visual guide. It's on the internet. It's more accessible, and it gives people, everyone, goals to set. And so when the commission, or when the commission hears an item, or when the resident comes before us, they kind of know where we want to be. San Marino doesn't have any preservation ordinances, and their buildings and their homes are just spectacular. We've modeled our guidelines after San Marino's, and I was very active in championing that move and working with the consultant so that we can make those moves to make the additions more compatible, make it more integrated into the neighborhood, and make the additions, if you are adding on to a house, almost invisible. So when you pass by the street, you think, is that an addition, or was that there when it was done? You know, during the home tours, you go through a craftsman-style house, and the docents will tell you, oh, this was an enclosed porch, it wasn't built that way, or this is an addition, it wasn't originally done that way. But had they not pointed that out, it's so well integrated that you can't tell whether that was an original structure or whether that was added on later. And I think that's important to not only preserving the homes, but preserving the families as well. If you're in a 1,200 square foot home and your family is growing, I'd like you to stay in town. We'd like to retain those families. So you have grandparents, parents, and grandchildren all living in the same community in their homes. And as families grow, we'd like to see the homes change. And I think the guidelines do that. So we have been very attuned to those kind of changes.
Are you familiar with the 1985 Alhambra Historic Resources Survey, which was intended as a first step towards making historic preservation an official part of Alhambra's planning policy?
Do you think it's time to take the next step by commissioning a new and more comprehensive study?
You know, the study was great. In 1985, they did this study. It's about 30 years ago. We could update it with since then. However, if there's no, you know, it's a first step to something, and I think we need to know what that something is. If you go to your physician and he says, we need to take a blood test, well, that's fine, it gives you numbers, but unless you're tracking something, or unless you're going to use that information, then it's just another test, and it's just another study. So if there's a reason for taking a survey, if things have changed dramatically over the last 30 years, I could understand that, and if we're going to use that information in a useful way. They did this in 1985. I'm not sure back then. I was in dental school. I'm not sure if they did anything with the survey. And doing nothing with the survey other than to put it on the shelf isn't, I just don't see how that would help. We have plenty of historic homes that are identified from 1985. If a new study would be indicated to do something with it, then I would support that.
What do you want to tell the members and friends of the Alhambra Preservation Group about your goals for the next 4 years? And if you are elected to the City Council, how do you hope to achieve them?
Well, again, as far as preservation goes, what's important to me is preserving the neighborhood, preserving the community. In that, I think the 710 freeway completion is a big part of that. It will take commuter traffic off our streets. It'll improve our air quality. It's the #1 project in the 5 Southern California counties that will improve air quality and traffic. Working towards that, I think it'll keep our streets safer. It'll keep traffic away from our schools, our parks, and where kids play. So I think that's important. You know, I support public safety. Keeping our first responders well trained, well equipped, and healthy, fast, and efficient are important to the quality of life in our community. And improving their communication networks and the tools that police use to better protect us is very important to me. I think educating our planning commissioners about the guidelines and keeping them up to date as far as how to maintain a well-integrated, compatible addition to a home that's invisible as when you talk about driving down the street. I think that's important. We're maintaining, since I've been on the council, we've always had a balanced budget. We live within our means, and we've always been fiscally responsible. I think that's important to preserving the integrity of our community. We partner with the Alhambra Unified School District in safe after-school activities to keep kids engaged so idle minds don't wander into gangs and drugs and things that could hurt them and hurt our community. And Alhambra has provided free soccer fields, baseball fields, softball fields to our Little Leagues and our AYSO in that light of keeping kids active. And we continue to help parents and our sports leagues to give kids the best opportunities to grow up in a healthy environment. And that's it. I'm having, I think we're doing a great job on the council. I enjoy my time in serving the public, and I look forward to another 4 years.